Coming up on today's show, we're going to run through the latest Browns trade rumors with Andrew Berry, always willing and able to make a blockbuster move. So we're going to run through the latest rumblings across the league and talk about whether or not it makes sense for the Cleveland Browns. So with that, let's get started here with the first trade rumor out there, and that is trade for Mecole Hardman. I'm going to give it one Bernie head. We like to use Bernie heads, by the way, for all of our new viewers as a scale of believability from fake news all the way to 4 Bernie heads. So just one Bernie head for me. So if you missed it, Mecole Hardman is a potential trade candidate for the New York Jets. Jeremy Fowler reported that the Jets are open and looking into moving on from the recently signed free agent, keep in mind, who signed a 1-year, $4 million contract with New York in the offseason. Now, Hardman was a healthy scratch in the Jets' Week 5 win over the Broncos, and I also remember a time when the Browns were very interested in Mecole Hardman during the offseason. Ultimately, he went to the Jets. The Browns went with Marquise Goodwin as their speedy wide receiver, and so far we haven't really seen much from Marquise Goodwin. But we also haven't seen much from Mecole Hardman, for that fact. I mean, this year alone, 1 grab for 6 yards. Yikes. Now, Mecole Hardman had a pretty good stretch as that wide receiver 3 and even times wide receiver 4, if you count Travis Kelce, for the Kansas City Chiefs. You can see his numbers through the 4 years at Arrowhead. Put up 693 yards and 2 touchdowns. And maybe the best year, I guess 2019 would be right there with it, 6 touchdowns and 538 yards. But really good numbers. It definitely helps having Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. Listen, when it comes to the Browns having any interest on Mecole Hardman, I wouldn't rule it out because it is blockbuster Berry, as I like to call him. But I think Andrew Berry likes the current receiving core. He spoke to the media at the start of the Browns bye week and said he likes the Browns receivers. He likes their current unit. He likes their current makeup. And he did not really hint at any sort of move at the wide receiver position. And there's been some chatter about the Browns adding a receiver, but that's all it is right now, chatter. No one's come out and said the Browns are looking into adding a receiver. If that happens, we'll bump it up. But for now, I think Andrew Berry wants to see how these 4 receivers pan out after just 4 games. Like, this is a moment we got to kind of stop and catch our breath and go, Andrew Berry traded for Elijah Moore, signed Marquise Goodwin, also traded for Amari Cooper, but that was before. He probably wants to see how these 4 guys do over the course of more than just 4 games. Like, he needs to see more before he decides we got to make a move at wide receiver. I don't think Andrew Berry, like I said, is hitting the panic button 4 weeks in. I mean, even when he spoke to the media, and this was more of a note to myself than anything else, he was like, you guys might think the trade deadline is right around the corner, but from my vantage point, it is still a ways away. And that's partially true. Like, there are still more games to be played, and I think Andrew Berry wants to get every single snap of football in before the NFL trade deadline, before deciding whether or not they need to go get a wide receiver. Now, that does not mean Mecole Hardman will still be available. I mean, this morning we found out Van Jefferson was available for the Rams, and he was an Atlanta Falcon 3 hours later. So if Andrew Berry waits too long, he might not get a Mecole Hardman. But if he wants to wait and see how the trades and moves he already made pan out, which I think that's what he's going to do, then we're going to probably have to wait on any wide receiver trade until the last moment. But what do you think? Should the Browns trade for a wide receiver? Yes or no? Give me your thoughts down in the comments section. I want to know what you have to say about whether or not the Browns need to go out and add another receiver. Second trade rumor now. Are the Browns trading for an offensive lineman? I'm going to give this one 3 Bernie heads. I'm not quite at 4 Bernie heads because of what I just talked about Andrew Berry wanting to wait a little bit longer, it sounds like, before going out and redoing this roster. But Brad Stainbrook did report the Browns are expected to gauge the trade market for experienced offensive linemen per a league source. Now, before we get further into this topic, I do want to remind you guys about our sportsbook partner here at Chat Sports, which is BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/bet, promo code Browns125. Right now, the Niners are favored by 6 points. Over-unders at 37.5. Clearly, Vegas does not think Deshaun Watson will play. So if you've got a different feeling, you could go ahead and put some money down, and you can get a 125% deposit bonus when you use our link, chatsports.com/bet, along with the promo code Browns125. Getting back to the offensive line, I could see why the Browns would be interested in making a move, right? As I film this right now, Tuesday afternoon, Joel Petonio is dealing with an unspecified injury. Ethan Posick suffered a knee injury in the last game. And then you've got Jed Wills, who is just sticking out like a sore thumb right now, allowing 18 pressures. I mean, that is 10 more than the next guy on the offensive line. Think about that for a moment. You could combine any two other offensive linemen, and Jed Wills has still allowed more pressures this year. So who could Andrew Berry be looking at to beef up the offensive line, a.k.a. get a new starting left tackle, or if they move someone on the current O-line to left tackle to replace them? Garrett Bowles in Denver has been a hot trade topic. The Broncos are 1-4. They're looking like they're going to be big-time sellers. I could see Bowles coming over potentially. Jermaine Illuminor for the Raiders. He's a seasoned vet, and he was also benched for Vegas in their win over the Packers. So if the Raiders kind of want to move on and the Browns, go, you know what, one man's trash, another man's treasure. He's better than Jed Wills. That could be an option for cheap, cost you a lot less than Garrett Bowles. Cody Whitehair would be more of an interior offensive lineman if they want to replace Petonio, or if they want to move Petonio to left tackle for whatever reason to replace Wills. Well, then Cody Whitehair could come over and step in at left guard. Ezra Cleveland for the Minnesota Vikings. He's currently a guard, but he could play tackle, and he's having a really good season, and we'll look at that in just a second. And then Trent Brown, a part of the New England Patriots, he's having a really good season as well, and the Patriots are a bit of a dumpster fire right now, and they could be entering a big-time fire sale mode. But the two guys that really jump out to me, Garrett Bowles and Ezra Cleveland. Look at both their PFF grades this year. Each one of them having an outstanding start to the year. Ezra Cleveland, a top 10 guard in PFF size. Garrett Bowles coming in at 21 out of 72 qualifying tackles. Neither player has allowed more than 10 pressures, which compared to Jed Wills' 18 is looking very enticing. So whether it's Bowles at left tackle or Ezra Cleveland, who would probably cost you a little bit less, but you'd have to move him from guard to tackle, which he's played tackle before, so that would not be asking too much of him. I think both of those options are really good options. My guess is, or my prediction is, Andrew Berry is going to give Jed Wills Andrew Berry is going to give Jed Wills every single possible opportunity from here on out to prove he is a good or decent or salvageable starting left tackle. And the moment Andrew Berry gives up on him, he's making a call from his press box at Cleveland Browns Stadium, calling George Payton in Denver or his old buddy Kwesi Adofo-Mensah up in Minneapolis, saying, what will it cost to get Ezra Cleveland or Garrett Bowles? Now, before we get on out of here, if you made it to the end of the video, type CLE in the comment section. I always love to know who watches all the way through. So this is a good measuring tool, if you will, to know where the MVPs of the channel are at. So type CLE down below if you made it all the way to the end of the video. And as always, if you like the content we are doing here, hit me up on Twitter. You can DM me anything you want as long as it's somewhat PG. And we'll talk Brownies. So at Matthew Petey over on X as we continue to talk Cleveland Browns, news and rumors and all that good stuff over there.